How will satellite broadband help? There has been much discussion about Elon Musk's satellite internet company Starlink's entry into the Indian market, now in a three-way partnership with both Jio and Airtel and maybe others to follow, who will offer their distribution network and presumably work on some form of revenue share. Until recently, both Indian players had opposed Starlink's entry and its demands to free up spectrum tooth and nail. I reached out to Kunal Bajaj, CEO and co-founder of CloudExtel, a company that works as a B2B provider to many telecom and internet companies, linking their infrastructure on the back end in cities like Mumbai. I began by asking him how he was seeing the importance of satellite broadband networks and who it would serve the most effectively.
India is slightly unique when it comes to wireless broadband services as compared to even many of the mature markets because we have a very high population density, and our telecom operators, along with that population density, have actually invested quite a bit to get to upwards of 95, 96, even 97% population coverage with high speed. Now, we're not there yet with 5G, but certainly with 4G, we have those percentages of the population under a 4G signal. And the speeds that are being offered on the 4G network, particularly in rural areas, are actually pretty good. So really, then the need potentially for satellite broadband services in India will come down to where either a good high-speed quality or reliable connectivity via 4G mobile networks is really not available. And so we talk about, therefore, specific situations or particular niche use cases, at least on the retail side. So there will be some people who live in really far off remote areas where even today your BSNL, Jio, Airtel signal is really not reached. But I think the larger use case is going to be the highly sensitive niche use cases that are going to be used by enterprises. So where you have, for example, manufacturing centers, or you're working in, power, mining, things of that sort, where really by definition you're working in fairly remote areas, and your requirements are more than what a simple retail connection can offer you, because a retail connection will come with its own quirks when it comes to quality of service or reliable throughput, things of that sort. So the alternative for those types of guys today is very long microwave links that are actually quite expensive. And replacing those with satellite connectivity may A, be a lot more cost effective, but B, just be a lot more reliable with faster speeds and faster time to market.
How big do you feel this market is? I mean, I can sense what you're saying. Now, we see those towers with those little dishes on top, right? That's your long-range microwave. And we see it even in cities. So what could be the potential size of this?
Back in my consulting days, I would have probably had a ready answer with a number and, how many crores. Being an operator on the ground, that's an analysis that, I've not done in a while. But, really, it's, if you look at the way overall investments in automation, IoT, and connectivity to all of these remote manufacturing areas, and like I said, manufacturing, mining, energy, things of that sort, is the market going to be, tens of billions of dollars, or is it going to be hundreds of millions or billions? I mean, it'll be in that range, but it's not going to be as huge as our retail market, right? And it's certainly not going to be as big as, for example, the market for satellite connectivity in Europe or the US, where there, even retail customers are willing to pay, $70, $80, $100 a month with a $200 one-time charge up front, because really their alternative is either very, very slow speeds or no speed at all.
And if you were to look at what networks like Jio or Airtel have promised, which is high-speed 5G networks, and this is all supposed to be rolling out as we speak or towards the end of the year, or maybe in some parts already there. So how does that compare with what maybe the best case satellite broadband could be in remote areas?
In remote areas, yeah, absolutely. Look, I think 5G today has actually proven itself to be quite useful in providing not only mobile broadband, but even home broadband, because we've seen the tremendous pickup of fixed wireless, FWA. And that, was kind of one of those benefits that it wasn't completely clear how much traction we would get in that space, particularly because 5G was originally launched to be a much better mobile experience. But I think now we're seeing a lot of traction, a lot of benefit and uplift coming from the FWA side. And the reason for that is, for once, and probably for the first time in India, operators have gotten good enough amount of spectrum to offer a truly broadband experience. We have always been spectrum starved when we launched 3G, when we launched 4G in this country. And, operators were always jockeying for a little bit more spectrum and paying exorbitant rates at auctions. In 5G, you've got a sufficient amount of spectrum in the high band. And particularly when you provide it in an FWA kind of environment where you have a fixed receiver with a high gain antenna that can be installed in a home or in an SME office, it's delivering very high speeds. So, getting reliable 100 Mbps plus speeds on that is very possible with the network that's been rolled out today. As capacity utilization will increase, and this is independent of whether it's in suburban or in rural areas, the reliable level of throughput that you'll get is going to come down. But I think that's, when the operators then step in. And what we expect operators to do over time is if you have high density pockets of very good levels of 5G FWA utilization, you would expect that in a few months you would get a fiber and an FTTH connection available at those same exact locations. And if it's in rural areas, then likely the capacity available from just, a single tower offering 5G on FWA will be more than sufficient to be able to scale up and support hundreds of users with those 100 Mbps types of connections.
Right. On cost, as things stand today, obviously, as maybe more subscribers come in or hundreds of thousands of subscribers come in, costs could change. But as things stand today, what's your sense of cost parameters between, let's say, a mid-range satellite-based proposition versus what we are currently used to?
Look, FWA 5G is cheap. It's the cheapest in India. Yes, there's a device cost associated with it, but it's nowhere near the $200 device cost that you would need for the satellite terminal. Even if costs for India come down substantially from what they are in other parts of the world, but even in the FTTH business, telcos are not investing $100 per home for that Wi-Fi router and for that termination box that they give you, which today is even acting as a set-top box for your, making a sort of a less smart TV into a smart TV as well. That comes for less than, even $100 today. So to compete against the type of pricing that we're getting with 5G FWA, satellite costs would really need to come down substantially. And a lot of that is the hardware cost. The other challenge that they'll face in dense areas is that satellite does have restricted capacity. At the end of the day, it's a wireless medium. While on the ground, if one tower gets full, you can add another tower very nearby to split the capacity and split the area into two different cells. Doing that when it comes to satellite is just a lot more challenging. Adding capacity if one area gets filled up means buying more satellite capacity, launching another satellite, or looking at different spectrum bands which are just not available. So look, I'm not saying that, there will be no impact from satellite. There will be these, very high-end applications where there is a willingness to pay, where corporates or high-end users have a particular requirement for quality service or for backup connectivity. But I don't see it having a major large-scale retail impact.
And that's an interesting point that you made, because it hasn't struck me that even with satellite, you could have congestion if there are too many subscribers in a area. I didn't think of that. Anything to do with satellite in India is a tricky business, right? I mean, if you carry a sat phone, for example, without permissions, you could be arrested as things stand. There are so many other regulatory. How do you see that environment shaping up?
Starlink already ran into a lot of problem when a few years ago they launched a website saying, we're coming to India, sign up over here, right? And there was a massive backlash, rightly so, right? Because, they had not spoken to DOT. DOT had not given them permission to do that. And they were basically doing what Starlink or other, many Silicon Valley startups are used to, which is just sort of go in and break things and see kind of what happens, right? I think they learned their lesson, and this approach to partnering with the Indian telcos overcomes the massive battle that was happening around whether spectrum should be auctioned or priced. And essentially, by becoming a partner rather than a competitor, they found the right way to get in. But that doesn't mean that the internal battles within India aren't going to continue, because yes, we still have limited spectrum available. We will still have limited flying slots and all the rest of that stuff. And at the end of the day, I think, there is a lot of merit to our government wanting to create a local ecosystem for satellite as well. We shouldn't lose this opportunity where we're looking to set up connectivity in India and essentially give all that away to only foreign players and foreign operators. Bharti Airtel has an investment in OneWeb. Jio has a partnership and an investment in another satellite operator. V's CTO yesterday, as part of the 5G launch, mentioned that they're also looking at a satellite partnership. But we shouldn't lose this opportunity to actually build up capability, capacity, and our own services offering in the Indian context. Why should we be completely reliant on foreign operators for that?
Right. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Govind.